It's Seeing Red, the New York Soccer Roundup. Since 2010, your weekly source for independent New York Red Bulls news and opinion. Now, from the Joe Goldstein studio, here's your host, Mark Fishkin.
Seeing Red, Mark Fishkin here with Daniel Rebain this week. An undermanned New York squad gets by a Toronto team that was not very good in Harrison in a less than impressive performance that highlighted the importance of Emil Forsberg to the Red Bulls. It's Seeing Red, the New York Soccer Roundup. Please do me a favor, like and subscribe. The liking, the subscribing. Daniel Rebain, how are you?
I'm doing fine. You brought up that game. Bit of a snooze fest for the most part, but sometimes you just got to be able to grind out games, and they got it done at the end of the day.
I think this was a match where the quality, the difference in quality of the two sides became evident as it went on. But we'll get into it tonight on the show. We're going to look back on New York's second win of the season. They're back above the line, folks, which means a whole hell of a lot in March, I guess. We'll give our Bull of the Week. It will come as no surprise to you. The Red Bulls head up I-95 this weekend for a Saturday afternoon matinee against old school 96er New England in the 100th all-time match in all competitions with the Revs. We'll get into it. We'll have a chat with former Red Bull and current MLS Season Pass cabal broadcaster LLOYD SAM. And the emails have been a little the email bag's been empty the last few weeks. This week, not the problem whatsoever. We have overflowing email. Yes, Dan likes to read the emails and he likes to do the emails, and you guys turned out for Daniel Rebain. So let's get into it. First half, first of all, A.J. Marcucci's first MLS start. He's been with the club for 5 years. He was away in Finland last season on an experience-providing loan. Didn't have much to do in the first half, and rolled to his first MLS victory. What were your thoughts overall on Marcucci's performance, Dan?
I've been waiting for his first start for Red Bull, the first team, for a while now. And, didn't have much, didn't get the clean sheet at the end of the day. Terrific header, I'll say, from the Toronto player. After watching it, like, bullet header,
high degree of difficulty.
Put it right under the bar. But other than that, AJ did what he needed to do, and, Red Bull was able to get a win for him in his first start. I think he, average performance, but, didn't have much to do, and they got 3 points. So nothing more you can really ask for.
Yeah, I don't think you certainly can't say that he was at fault on the one goal. Wiki Carmona plays attacking mid. The entire first half is played in the Toronto end of the field. Toronto did not attempt a shot in the first half. That's how dominant it was. But other than Raheem Edwards getting clipped in the box on a long delay, a VAR-aided penalty, and Forsberg did not give up the ball this time. He's been perfect, 6 for 6 on penalty kicks for New York since he arrived. And New York went into halftime up 1-0. And the thought was, obviously without Young Goro, who's away with the Norway U21s, certainly without an injured Cam Harper and a surgery recovering Lewis Morgan. I mean, New York's attack was limited, and as you said, Dan, the match was a little bit of a snoozer. New York seemingly content to just cycle the ball from corner to corner. No one really making a big run. Forsberg falling into the channels frequently, not getting the ball. It was frustrating.
Yeah, it was frustrating, and then obviously the one chance they do get is a penalty. Me personally thought it was a dive. Even after replay, still think it's kind of a dive, and they got lucky to get the penalty. But you take what you can get. If VAR wants to give you a soft penalty after looking at it, you take it. The arena staff tried to jinx Emil Forsberg by playing the music early, and that was crazy. Like the media press row were going nuts. They're like, "Oh, there we go. He's gonna miss now."
Everyone was going nuts in the place. Yeah.
Good. He puts it in, and Red Bull goes into half up 1-0, and that was a critical goal to get before half, just to know that okay, boys, we got the lead, a boring half. Let's still be patient, and goals will eventually come.
Yeah, and you think if New York is able to get that second goal early in the second half, the game's over. That Toronto just had so little on the attack, even with players like Bernardeschi and Insigne, who, I mean, these were not guys that made a big impact on the game other than Bernardeschi's yellow for dissent, which he gets every single time he comes to Red Bull Arena, frankly. Second half in the 56th, MLS Cup champion Derek Etienne Jr. enters for Toronto as well with DeAndre Kerr. They hook up on a phenomenal counterattack if you're a Toronto fan.
Yeah.
And as you said, I mean, Kerr's goal was, Etienne, still a speedy player, was able to get separation down the left side. The ball's in the back of the net, and all that work and all that dominance that New York had in terms of holding the ball and creating all of the scoring chances, few as they may have been, are like completely wiped out. It's crazy.
Yeah, that when that goal goes in, it gave you that feeling of past seasons where you're like, man, it's that game, it's that type of game again. Red Bull should be getting 3 points, and they'll probably get one, or maybe even lose it at the end. But as we'll get to, they stuck to it. The patience paid off in the end, and they got 3 points.
Yeah. Fantastic passing sequence. Edelman, Chupo, Carballo, Forsberg. He's just barely kept onside by a Toronto defender. And this was a kind of goal that we really haven't seen yet this year from New York. Some set pieces, a blast from Forsberg we've seen. But this was the goal. This may have been the prettiest goal that the Red Bulls have scored all season. They haven't scored a ton, but quick passing sequence and up the middle. And yes, it's a Toronto error for keeping Forsberg onside. He's not going to miss on a simple breakaway inside the box. But what I love to see was that the four players were able to work together in such a crisp, quick manner that completely unlocked, frankly, a poor back line.
Yeah, and I think, when you brought in a guy like Eric Choupo-Moting and you have quality in midfield like a Felipe Carballo, you're envisioning this type of play, and it finally pays off. The hold-up play from Choupo all game, the quick one-touch pass into Emil Forsberg behind the defense. They're keeping him on like we did with Raheem Edwards a week before, keeping Orlando on. So obviously when he didn't celebrate, I was like, oh, he's offside. Easiest day offside. But when they give it, you're like, wow, okay, here we go. They got a 2-1 lead and they're able to hold on. But yeah, prettiest goal. Four players
team
leading
goal.
up. Yeah, the team goal is pretty, and that's what Red Bull has been missing, is that quality in the attacking box to make those type of passes. And hopefully Felipe Carballo, while he's still on the field, is able to make more of those passes going forward.
Well, he's not going to make them this weekend. We'll get on to that. But before that, I want to talk about Serge Goma. Serge Goma is now 19 years old, and he has missed lots of time due to primarily hamstring injuries that he has worked his way back, and knee injuries and groin injuries. He comes on in a situation where New York has the lead, and he really was in a position to be that first attacking choice off the bench and truly finally show what he's got, right? And this, in the past, it's been a Julian Hall that's come on, or a Dennis Yengur. Obviously, he's not there this week, but here's Serge's shot. And he comes in, he takes a shot, it's saved, and he crumples to the ground, and he tries to get up, and he can't. He comes off a Ronald Donkor minutes later. And a lot of folks have written the show just saying, and on social media, like, what are we doing here? And either Serge is made of glass, or there's something wrong with the physio team. or the kid is just so incredibly snake bit. Now, I wasn't in post game. You were, Dan, I believe. Did Schwartz say that he was okay?
Yeah. So the whole reason he was subbed off is that new 2-minute rule. When you're injured, you have to come off the field.
Okay.
And so, obviously it's late in the game. They're holding on to a slim lead, and Toronto's making a push. So they were just like, you know what, we'll just make a sub right here to get the player off and get a fresh player on. He's in training. He was in training today. It was shown on their Instagram and Twitter. So I believe he's perfectly fine. I think it was just, he got fouled hard, and he had to come off, or he probably would have been on if this was, when did they put that rule in? This year? Is this?
Yeah, I think in the last year or two, right?
So if this happened last year, I think he would have just still been on the field. So I think it was just, got to get an 11th player on. You can't play 2 minutes down with 10 minutes. So.
Ronald Donkor comes in for his first minutes this season and looked active and looked ready to go. The difference between this week and what we saw last week against Orlando is there wasn't that letdown over the last 10 minutes. And yes, New York conceded possession a little bit. Toronto obviously doesn't have the attacking chops that Orlando does. Toronto got their last shot off in the 82nd minute. So New York was definitely able to lock it down. Carvalho comes on. He gets 2 of the quickest yellows ever received.
God.
It was dissent, and I think more dissent. Yeah. And John Freeman is a wacky ref. New York has broken down the defense in the 6th minute of extra time, and Raheem Edwards is leading a 3-man 3-on-none break on the Toronto goal, and Freeman blows the match dead at the end of the day. Nevertheless, New York puts 5 of their 11 shots on target. Toronto 2 of their 5. All of them came in the second half. New York wins 2-1. They move above the line. They're in 7th place with 8 points and only 4 points off the lead in the conference after 5 games. They have points in 4 of their last 5 games. And, it's a night where you're playing a little bit down to the quality of your opponent, which this team has been guilty of quite often over the last few seasons. But if you get 3 points, does it matter?
Yeah, that I had, 2 points just to make. One, just to go back to Serge Goma. You brought it up. He was electric. When he came on the field, he brought that, spark that they needed with that pace down the wing. And it showed. Obviously, it led to that second goal. He was on the ball. And ultimately, the ball's in the back of the net. Obviously, he gets injured in the 80-whatever minute and has to come off. If he can just, be that first guy off the bench for most games this year and show progress that he's, fully back from injuries, I think that's a guy that they can, key on going forward off the bench.
Okay.
And then secondly, you brought it up of playing down their opponents. Like I said before, this is the type of game that Red Bull would potentially throw away and lose points. They brought on Tim Parker in the 90th minute to close out games. And I think, having this back line might be slow. Like I brought it up. That was my whole big, scare was they are slow. Like they could get beat for pace. But when they keep the ball in front of them, they're a solid group, and not just the back line; it's the midfield and the attack. Like they're all connected. Like that, they had a very structured defensive line from their midfield to their back line against Toronto, and if they're able to hold that structure going forward with this 3-man back line, and you add more talent, like when everybody's fully back. This could be a good team. If they can get clicking offensively, watch out, because I don't think this team will give up many goals.
No,
but if they can score 2.5 goals a game, 3, this is a really good team. But again, defensively, that's what stood out to me was the structure and unity in the back line and midfield.
I like it. So New York's played 5 games. They've scored 6. They've conceded 4. So they're conceding fewer than a goal a game. That's good. Really interesting wrinkle. They've only played 1 team that's above them on the table. Mm-hmm. They are ahead of Cincinnati. They lost 1-0. They are ahead of Atlanta, where they drew 0-0. They are ahead of Orlando, who they beat. Or they tied, excuse me. They're ahead of Toronto. The only team ahead of them is Nashville, Nashville's lone loss on the season. So, and Nashville's only give up 3 goals all season, and 2 of them to New York. It's a really interesting, wacky start. Nevertheless, this is not a challenge for me, my friend. Who do you have as your bull of the week?
Well, all right. Obviously, it's Emil Forsberg. We can just get that out of the way. Emil Forsberg brace. Like, what else are you going to say? But I'm going to give out an honorary bull of the week.
Okay.
And that's AJ Marcucci. First start for the first team. 5 years with the organization. He's grinding Red Bull 2 the past couple of years. Finally gets his first big moment where he gets a loan out to Finland and takes a last place team in Finland and almost gets them European competition for this year. Yeah. I mean, he really earned this start. And it's finally shown, only 25. So he could theoretically be a starter going forward in the future with Carlos Coronel's contract running down after this season. So
yes,
that's definitely a storyline to keep an eye on. A Philly, kind of area guy being Red Bull's goalkeeper going forward. So
stranger things have happened.
Honorary bull of the week, AJ Marcucci. Congratulations.
All right. And Emil Forsberg, of course, you make the MLS team of the match day. You're a bull of the match as well. All right. We're going to talk about New England now for the next few minutes. New England is, my friends, not a good team. And we're going to get into it right now. Okay. New England has a single point on the season in 4 games. They were off last week. They haven't scored a goal on their own yet. It's just 1 own goal that they conceded last week, or that they got last week playing NYC. They've allowed 5 in 4 games. When you don't actually score a goal, it's no surprise that you are the worst attack in MLS and the worst XG in MLS. The team is 0-2 on the plastic pitch at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough. To say there have been wholesale changes to this team since the end of last year is an understatement. If you are watching and you can take a look at your screen, you can see that an entire team's worth of players have come in, and many players have gone out, and many players have joined Bruce Arena in San Jose, including Dave Romney and Nick Lima. And I think Vrioni's in Montreal. Mark Anthony Kay, I think, is out playing for Arena. The players that were brought in for Caleb Porter, who is now the first team coach, include a number of MLS lifers: Alex Bono, who's now 30 years old, Wyatt Omsberg, former Loon, Jackson Uil, former U.S. men's national team midfield hope, Maxio Rudy, who is 34 years old now and still bouncing around MLS. They did pick up Leo Campana as well from Inter Miami for $2.5 million. He is injured, however, and he will not play on Saturday afternoon against. So it's a whole new team, and it may become of no surprise that the Revs have yet to click in attack. We know that Caleb Porter has a distinctive way that he wants to play, similar, if you will, to the Berhalter style of pulling it out wide, then moving it in for the forward. It has not come together yet. When you're talking about the Revs again, going forward, New England is just tragic. It's not like they have a poorly constructed attack like Toronto. They have Ganago and Heel and Campana and Langoni. They're all attackers that can make an impact, but they've failed to do anything together under Caleb Porter. And when your 1 goal is gifted to you by an anomaly of an on goal that issues run deep, there are probably a couple of reasons, but the primary and most apparent one is that these players have yet to really buy in to Porter's system. Since Caleb Porter replaced Bruce Arena last year, he's been an abject failure. Only Chicago were below them in the East last year, and this season has been a shambles. With the additions, New England fans could have been fooled in the season that could be more successful, but he can't hasn't yet figured out how to get this offense to work. Campana's talent was clear to anyone who watched him in Miami, although he certainly doesn't have Suarez and Jordi Alba passing to him. In New England, Langoni's talent was clear last season. Carl's healed, multiple MVP caliber seasons under Bruce Arena. But this is the worst, one of the worst offenses ever seen in MLS. This is historically bad. They had a opening day 0-0 draw at Nashville. They had a 3-1. I'm sorry, they had a 1-0 loss at Columbus, a 2-0 loss at Philadelphia, and then last week, 2 weeks ago, a 2-1 loss at NYC, where Martins for NYC had an own goal in the 26th minute. This is a historic match between the teams. Again, it's the 100th all-time meeting between the Red Bulls and Revs in all comps. The Red Bulls trail slightly over 100 matches, down just 5. Gillette, as longtime listeners or viewers of the show will know, is an absolute horror house for the Red Bulls, who have been playing at Gillette for 29 years, and they've only won 8 times there.
Oof.
8 times in 44 games they've won. The home side in this series is unbeaten in 6. The last time the teams played, Emma Boateng had a goal. That was the difference, the lone difference in a 1-0 win for the Revs. The last time New York won at Gillette was, you have to go back 3 years to April of 2022, where a Matt Polster own goal late. I know Dan remembers that was the difference, as the New York won 1-0. BWP has 10 all-time goals against the Revs. Wiki and Lewis Morgan each have 2. Obviously, only one of those players will be playing this week, perhaps, and it's Wiki Carmona. Here is a prospective lineup. Aljaž Ivicic from Slovenia, 31 years old. He'll be in net. The 4-2-3-1 has a potential left back of Will Sands, 24-year-old American. Mamadou Fofana, who is away with Mali this week for international World Cup qualifiers. Brian Ceballos, a 23-year-old Colombian, and then Brandon Bai, who's a known quantity on the Revs. There's Matt Polster, former Chicago, usually finds a way to mess up New York when the two teams play, 31 years old now and at the 6, as well as Al Hassan Yusuf from Nigeria, Luca Langoni, an Argentine, on the right. There's Carl Giel, who is really missing better players in front of him. Ignatius Ganago was with Amiens in France last year. He's 26-year-old Cameroonian. And then up top, Maxi Aruti, who again is 34. Leo Campana's out. Thomas Chancalay, who made some noise when he came into the team. He's from Argentina as well. He's hurt. Peyton Miller, a 17-year-old American, it was on international duty. And so, my friend, this is a tough one to call. New York gets, they get Carlos Coronel back. They get Dennis Youngar back. I'm curious what your thoughts are of what we might see Saturday afternoon. Again, this is another team in a really bad way offensively, and you think if New York is clicking, it works. I'm not sure. What do you think?
Yeah, I want to just bring up that stat you brought up of, New England's expected goals. They have 1.6 expected goals this year.
In 4 games.
To put in perspective, Red Bull is at 8.
Yeah.
And Red Bull only has 6 goals on the year, and you're like, oh my God. So, I mean, back-to-back weeks you're playing, wooden spoon caliber teams this year.
Yeah.
Looking at that team, you're like, wow, I thought a couple of past Red Bull teams were bad. Like, oh my God, that's a really bad team. Carlos Gil, shout out to him for chugging along still. I mean, man, that must suck. But you never know. Again, Red Bull in the past have lost these type of games. And, of course, going to New England, going to Gillette, it might be one of those games. But, if Red Bull is able to come out clicking like they were, a couple of weeks ago, or even in that second half where they had some passing plays going along, you add Dennis Youngar back to right wing back, add Carlos Coronel back. I think Red Bull should be able to go up to New England despite the bugaboos and go get their 9th win all time up in Gillette.
Yeah, again, I think the field conditions,
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
on turf.
Speaking on that, yeah, Emil Forsberg was not happy when he was like to round out his press conference. He was like, "Yeah, I'm not happy to go up and play on the turf next
Yeah,
week." So
and
that is always a problem.
I'm sure Chupo's knees, in addition, will be challenged by it, and which gives New York even more reason to get the first and then get the second quickly in the game and
Yeah.
put the game to bed. I mean, if you can afford to have Forsberg sitting on the bench for the last 30 minutes of the game
Yeah.
because you've got a seemingly insurmountable lead and you can just play a little defense, I think that would obviously serve New York well. These games are so tough to handicap, specifically because this is a game that you look at these two teams for the second straight week, Dan, and you're like, the Red Bulls are in such a better place than New England. And yes, New England is playing at home. They haven't won a game there. They haven't scored there yet this season. It should be, by all accounts, a beautiful day in the Northeast. It's going to be 70 plus degrees in the New York area. It's an afternoon game, so I think that's a little added bonus. Easy for Red Bull fans to go and make the trip as well. I know there are a number of buses that are heading up for this match. So what do you call it? I mean, you got a team that's, when they get so far down like they are now, and yes, it's super early on the season, New England really has nothing to lose, right? They're playing for pride almost. They're playing to show their home fans that they can not only score a goal, but they can win a game. And they, for them, it's no pressure. It's just go out and play your game.
Yeah, you brought it up. No pressure. For New England, this is a game that usually gets them up.
Yes.
I don't know if they specifically call us a rival, but 100 games, the 96, original team, that seems like a rival to me. And they always, for whatever reason, Gillette just always causes problems. So, me personally, obviously, if you don't score on yourself, you probably had a good chance against New England this year. So if you want me to give you a scoreline, I'll give you 3-0 Red Bull.
Woo! Last week, with our friend Gustavo, he said 3-0 New York, and I called it 1-1 just to play it close to the vest. I'm going to say that New York it gets a 1-1 draw, but they're the one with the own goal to make it so. But I think we're probably most likely going to be looking at something closer to what Dan called it. All right. When we're back on Seeing Red, a treat for everyone. We have our good friend LLOYD SAM, former Red Bull, will be calling this game on Saturday. So please keep it here, and we'll be right back. We're back on Seeing Red, the New York Soccer Roundup. Red Bulls about to head to New England to take on the winless Revs. Not just winless. They haven't scored a goal, really. Tonight's guest needs little introduction. From 2012 to 2016, he was part of the spark of a fantastic Red Bull side that won two shields during that time. LLOYD SAM picked up 126 all-time appearances, scoring 24 and 26 assists, which is still in the top 15 all-time for this franchise. He's now a broadcaster, and he will be on the game on Saturday night, Red Bulls and Revs. LLOYD SAM, welcome back to Seeing Red. How are you, my friend?
Good, man. Anytime. Hey, I'm very busy. I just moved house. I've just moved cities, states, all of that. So, but any chance, to connect with New York Red Bull community is always an opportunity I take.
Well, you've got so many Red Bull connections on the the MLS Season Pass crew.
That's
right? It must be like old home week every time you kind of check in for work.
It doesn't feel real. It doesn't. I'm seeing my friends on TV all the time. Like, I think last week I came back and Jesse was on, right? I don't know if you guys saw that. I came back, I put it on randomly, and I'm like, oh, Jesse's on. Then Jesse brings up my name saying he heard me commentate. It was just like a surreal moment. I'm like, Dax, Sasha, and Brandon and Jesse. So it was great. I tweeted in. They talked about my tweet. And I was randomly walking into the room when my name was coming up at times. And I was just like, this is This is very interesting, but I like it. I like it.
That's awesome. Now you've relocated, like you said, you're in Florida now. Primarily, you're calling 2 games a week now. Talk to us about how it all came together.
You know what? I don't even know if I can go all the way into all the ins and outs because
Fair enough.
work hasn't come out with it. But I am in Florida. I do have 2 games. How it came about is the bit that I think you got to ask the higher ups how it came about. I'm just scheduled and I go to my games. But here I am in the Miami area, which I have lived before. So
right.
That is familiar. I have friends here. It's going to be interesting doing 2 games, though. It's going to be interesting. Like, I used to take a whole week to prep for 1 game.
Right.
And if people will be like, wait, why does that take a whole week? Well, what happens is you come back from the last game on a Sunday. So, depending on the time you get back, you probably want to ease your way in.
Right.
Then I only have Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to work on the new game. Or the new games, because by Thursday we speak to the coaches. So I need to know everything by the time I speak to the coaches. And now it's 4 coaches.
Right.
That's probably one of the hardest parts, just getting everything, your ducks in a row before you speak to the coaches Thursday. Friday, I would fly. So that's why, the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is so important to the prep of everything I'm doing.
How has your commentating game evolved over time? When we last talked to you on Seeing Red, you were just getting your toes wet with the CONCACAF games, and we know you had a couple of great seasons in Charlotte, and now you're back doing MLS. Like, how have you raised your game as a broadcaster over this time?
So many different ways, man. It's like so many things. Every game I do, I've watched every game back that I've done. So every game I'm taking notes on what I like. And obviously I'm working with a commentary partner, Neil Seeker, as well. So after every game, we review the game. We have a chat. We write down some timestamps of, this maybe was very good. Continue doing that. This, maybe we can adjust here and there. That's probably the best way to improve, I think. Review everything. I'm probably my biggest critic as well. So review everything. See how it was delivered. Do I like that? Oh, I want more of that. Do I not like that? Let's not do that again. Sometimes I might hear myself say the same phrase too many times in my head. And I'm like, all right, let's chill out on that, and be aware. And sometimes you watch games back and as a neutral commentator, you want to balance the storylines on both teams. So, there's a lot going on there where you might get in and one team is doing well and you're only talking about that team. Yeah. But you have to honor the other side as well, even if they're not doing so well. Like, get their fans something. So, these are all things I'm listening back to. Goal calls of the big moments are always going to be paramount.
Yeah,
goals, big chances, red cards. The big moments that are on the highlights. Prioritize those, slow down, and deliver those well.
I know that. In the early days of your career with MLS, you were calling Charlotte FC games in their first few. I think that's a really good point about making sure that both teams' fans are getting service in a world where you're the only call pretty much on the game. And I would imagine it's a challenge. And, for the Red Bulls and Revs, 2 original teams, despite New York's run to the final last year, I think it's safe to say that the Red Bulls are not necessarily a glamour team in a league that has a Miami and an LAFC and, some of the other kind of natural big star driven teams. Yeah. So I wanted to kind of turn attention to this game on Saturday. This is the 100th time in all competitions that the Revs and New England have played each other. It's a long rivalry. What do you remember about your time playing in the league with trips to Foxborough? Because those wins up there come very few and very far between for New York.
Yeah, I definitely had some experience in a few of those 100 games you're talking about. In fact, my first goal was over there.
Awesome.
As bad as it's been over there, my first MLS goal was for Red Bulls against Revs under Mike Petke, 2013 or 12 or something. But generally, as you're saying, not many wins, not many 3 points, not many like happy moments.
Yeah.
Right. We had the Eastern Conference final out there, which wasn't, that was that wasn't amazing.
No.
I gotta say, these moments almost still haunt us, when we're like, man, we didn't win MLS Cup. Like me and Brad talk about it sometimes, and obviously me and Brad have got the new podcast we're doing, Two Up Top.
Yep.
And we actually are gonna release some stuff about us talking about how have we not won MLS Cup with some of the teams. And there was opportunities. With good teams for years. It's great to have Supporters Shield twice. But your question was about Foxborough. It was always tough. And we knew it was tough. They knew it was tough for us to go there as well. I used to talk to, Darius Barnes was also with Charlotte. And he always used to say, even before the Charlotte time, you say, we used to love it that you guys used to hate it. So they didn't love it themselves, but they loved it more because we used to hate it. So, I mean, right now, they're desperate for points. And I'd say Red Bulls is in a better situation at the moment, but always going to be a tough game, no matter what up there.
I still see that ball from Henry going over Cahill's shoulder late in 2014, and just get it down, Tim. In my head, I can see it.
I've got to go back and watch the highlights as well of that game, man. Oh my gosh.
The highlights.
And what happened? What happened on that chance?
It went in the 20th row. I mean,
it went in the 20th row.
And it was right on the start of injury time, if I remember correctly. And New York just needed one goal to extend the series. And that's when Charlie Davies came out of nowhere and dropped 2 in that game. And it was cold. Anyway, happier times. New York is, they have points in 4 or 5 games. They didn't knock anyone's socks off against Toronto, but they got the win that they had to.
They did enough.
They did just enough.
Just enough. I wasn't sure about that penalty either, but you guys will take it.
Absolutely. But nevertheless, they're getting Cornell back. They'll get Youngar back. Without Lewis Morgan, this team's attack is a little less multifaceted. Certainly, it's a little more limited to what Chupo and to what Emil Forsberg can do. New England is in a horrific way from an attacking standpoint. Yeah. They don't give up a ton of goals, but again, if you're not going to score, their only goals on an own goal last week against City, a strange own goal. Yeah. I mean, have you been on what needs to happen? I mean, Caleb Porter has won things in this league before, but his team isn't catching what he's got just yet.
Yeah, little disclaimer before I do answer this. I haven't watched their last 2 games.
Fair enough.
I'm trying to watch every team's game that they've played in the season. So I've watched all the Red Bull games. But you can imagine with 4 teams every week, that's very difficult.
That's tough.
But it's easier at the beginning of the season.
Yes.
20 games in, it's going to be going to be tough.
You're just going to the highlight packages and
So I mean, I did have a New England game already, so I know them pretty well, and it's all the new players they have. They have some good players there, but on a Red Bulls point of view, they're not going to want it to click just yet. But a New England point of view, there's good players. There's a lot of pressure there from last season. So it's almost like a cocktail of pressure from last season, adding new players, and you need it to work straight away, which isn't always realistic. They still have Carlos Hill, who is obviously one of the better 10s in the league that we've seen for a while. And what needs to happen? Maybe one just needs to fly in for them. That loosens things up a little bit. Leo Campana's out as well, so that's not amazing for them, and he's the big signing. It's not a great situation for them. When I look at them, I look at their wingers, Ganago and Langoni.
Mm-hmm.
These guys are reputable guys. They've come over. Langoni's a record signing on the right wing. He needs to do some more. He needs to live up to his name. And Ganago is a guy that's played in Ligue 1 in France, so he's coming with a big reputation on the wing. It just they haven't really got it going yet. And without watching the last 2 games, it's hard to really analyze properly and say why still, but I will be watching those. I'll watch at least one of them today.
All right.
But I think it's a matter of one flying in that relaxes everybody down, relaxes Caleb and the players. There's quite a lot of pressure over there. So if Red Bulls get an early goal,
Yeah.
You know, that's when it's like, oh, you know, things, the mindset of a few drops a little bit, and then it could be an interesting game.
New York has played with a lot more possession this year than they have. It seems like over Sandro Schwartz's time with the club, there was an effort early in the year. Yes, we're going to hold the ball more. Now they're really holding the ball. And while certainly in the last game against Toronto, it seemed like in the final third, the creativity was lacking a bit. Obviously, on Forsberg's goal, it was a phenomenal quick passing sequence, and they caught Toronto napping, and
that was a good pass.
Guy keeping Toronto keeping Forsberg on side. But what's your overall impression of the Red Bulls 5 games in, and with again suffering some meaningful injuries? But what are your overall impressions?
Yeah, well, one of the most interesting ones is what you said about the passing. Against Atlanta away, the 0-0 game, I was shocked when I looked at the stats, and Red Bull was over 500 passes.
Yeah.
Like, I think that there was one time I saw Red Bulls have 73 passes in one half, and this is like a couple years back. And I was like, wow, 73. So normally you would want that number to be around 200 or something, but they had 580, I think. And I was like, away from home at Atlanta, it was crazy to me. I'm looking forward to speaking to Sandro. We speak to him Thursday this week, and understanding like the whole philosophy. It's evolved a little bit, hasn't it? Like, he's talked a few times about wanting to play more with the ball. And I think they're doing that. I like the way the back three, you'll probably hear me say this in commentary as well, because it's something I noticed. The back three, I like the way it's set up with Nealis in the middle. You got the left footer on the left side, and you've got Ayla, good passer on the right side as well. That definitely helps build out. You see them swinging it back and forth, and they all seem, pretty comfortable enough on the ball. Lewis Morgan, excited for him to come back for Red Bulls, because I really like, honestly, what Choupo-Moting's done connecting the play. He's been better than I would have imagined. I don't know what the consensus is on him as a striker, but connecting the play and like little touches and combining, he really is a football player. Sometimes you might want him in the box more, just being a 9 and scoring. But when it comes to like his usage of the ball, I do like his usage of the ball. He often connects it very well with someone that's running off of him. So all I think is Lewis Morgan running off of him. That's the one. Like Yengor done pretty well. Which game was it? He scored.
Not against Atlanta, not against Nashville.
It was right before
the
last one. I can't remember. I should know. Orlando. Orlando. Yengor done pretty well in that game, but Lewis Morgan is just another level of player.
For sure.
No disrespect to Yengor. There's different skill set. But I think that could really work well because you're missing those runs behind, those clever runs behind. There's not really that much pace at the top end.
No, there's definitely not that much pace at the top end. And I think Red Bull fans are of two minds, right? The team hasn't really found a true forward since Bradley was here. It's been a lot of misses by the front office, bringing guys in, Klamala, and bringing in, like Ashley Fletcher, and bringing in Dante Van Zier, who, he's back in Belgium and now he's scoring goals and he's happy.
Is he scoring over there?
He is.
Oh, that's got to be annoying for fans.
A little bit. But nevertheless, I mean, I think Choupo, as you said, is doing the kind of the hold up play, moving along, creating opportunities. What he's not going to do is outrun a defender to a ball at age 35 and put it in the top corner. That's just not who he is. And so that's why it's so important for, Lewis to get back, or for Yengor to, listen, Youngor's goal against Orlando, as we talked about on our show, phenomenal. Run to the near post. Didn't think, just made the run. Stroud delivered the ball, and there you go.
And what was more important for me on that goal was Stroud.
Yes.
Running in behind. I think he gave it to someone, ran round them. Yeah. And the whole game, I was thinking, there's not enough guys that can do it. Because on the width as well, you've got wing backs that, are getting up and down. But are they running in behind? Not necessarily. So it leaves one guy to run in behind. Only Yengor or Lewis Morgan profile.
For sure.
And that's why Stroud doing that thing and running in behind and then crossing it was it's what's missing
Yeah.
From my opinion.
Talk to us a little bit before we let you go, Lloyd, and this has been great, about the new show with Bradley and what it's all about and how it came together.
Oh my gosh, the new show with Bradley. It was already a show. It just wasn't recorded before. You know, honestly, that's probably the best way I can say it. Like, me and Brad are having talks all the time. And like, some of our talks are so good, and some of it has so much like knowledge of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk, and we're like, some of these talks need to go out. We've been saying that for years. And we actually tried to do something a while back where it was with video games.
Okay.
And we're chatting at the same time.
Okay.
We might even do that again at some point. But, you know, we called it two up top. You know, just the analogy of two up top in a formation. And it's us two up top, I guess, chatting about things, you know, play on words a little bit. But it's us just having fun. Recorded talks, talking about some of my favorite moments of two up top is when it's not even about a particular subject and we're just catching up. And then, you know, I'm like, whoa, we're going to record tomorrow. And I'm going to be like, oh, how was your Open Cup game? What's been going on this week? He's going to ask me. We both work for Apple TV, which is quite unique as well.
Yes.
So, you know, we're going to be talking about old moments, you know, current moments, what we feel about just football, social issues, life. It's just, you know, kind of what we do, but it's recorded and we're having a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, we're so glad to hear both of your voices on our television screens every week, and now with the new podcast, LLOYD SAM. Enjoy the game on Saturday, and thank you so much for joining on Seeing Red. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate you, Mark. Anytime.
All right, we've got more Seeing Red and your emails coming up after this short break, so keep it here. You know the music. It's Seeing Red, the New York Soccer Roundup. After a couple of weeks of a very barren email bag, the email bag literally overflowed. We got 10 plus emails this week. We are going to read 5 of them. If you sent us an email and it did not get read on the show, it doesn't mean we think any less of you. We went for a chronologic first come, first serve approach. Dan and I are going to alternate emails. I'm going to read the first from our friend Andrew Barticle, who says, Mark and Dan, hope you're well. Tough to get excited about this one. Bottom of the table team, and we make a meal out of it at home. In possession, we're comfortable until we get in their half, and then we can't seem to put it together with any consistency. The growing pains of a team looking to change its identity, I understand, but it's a frustrating period. The PK felt soft, but won't complain. First real solid bit of possession leads to a goal, and I hope to see more of it going forward. I'd love to know what Carvalho said to Mr. Freeman to get sent off that quickly. It kind of feels like he needed people to know he exists. Thought the first yellow could have gone either way, and I'm sure he's heard more dissent than that and let it slide. Then that premature full-time whistle to prevent one more chance for us. Loser. Either way, we'll take the 3 points as we develop our new side of identity, but really hope it improves quickly. All these inconsistencies will hurt us later in the year. All the best, Andrew. Is this the best 2-1 home win? Is this the worst 2-1 home win in club history, Dan?
I mean, you know, it was a funny match. Like, bringing up that Carvalho stuff. Obviously, he gets the first yellow for, you know, delaying a restart. Obviously, you do it that late in the game, you're subject to a yellow card. I'm not mad at that one, but when I looked at Carvalho absolutely chased down the center referee, I was like, oh, he's gone. Could I've already? I think I've already seen it this year where someone chased down the ref like right after getting a yellow and got a second yellow, and I was like, what are you doing? Like, obviously the new rules, you can't speak to the ref unless you're the captain.
That's
like,
right.
Even before this rule, like, I would give you a yellow for chasing me down and probably yelling at me in Spanish, and I can't understand what you're saying. Or I don't know. Like, it's just like, he put that on himself. He deserved the double yellow. You know, go take a week off. And then at the end of the game, it was so weird. Like, you brought it up, 3-0. Just, and then whistle blow, and like, I was like,
So strange.
I was like, what happened?
Right, everyone was.
But
in fact, the whole arena seemed kind of stunned until the coaches started walking on the field that the match had actually ended.
I was actually like one of the first people to realize it was over because I saw the assistant referees run to the middle of the field, but like nobody else was moving. It was like, what is going on? Like, we need to end the game. And then finally, like a minute later, the arena starts playing the win music. And like, oh, there we go. It's all over. So, yeah, just a weird game. It was boring. You finally got some goals. And Red Bull gets a win. You take whatever you can get at the end of the day. So, good on the boys for grinding out a win. I've always said, just grind out some of these wins, and you just bank these points. And whatever, move on to the next one.
Yeah, and I think the quality of Forsberg and that passing sequence, which unlocked the second goal, is clearly the difference between falling to the level of Toronto and giving up 2 points at home and doing what you're supposed to do. And listen, until Lewis Morgan returns, you're down an attacking facet to your game that you just can't replicate with your current roster. I wish you could. I wish there was another Lewis Morgan on this team that's chomping at the bit to get in. And maybe if Serge stays on the field, we see a little bit more from him. I would just hate for goal differential to play a role in this season's final standings, where New York could have needed one more goal and Freeman took that opportunity away. But nevertheless, Andrew, thank you. Can you read Andre's email, Dan?
Yes, Andre Mosley. Hello, gents. I'll help out with the lack of emails over the past few weeks. Maybe I'm overreacting. Sure, we're missing players due to national team and injuries, but the fact that we needed a very generous PK call, which, let's be honest, was blatantly bad. I agree with you. To beat a Toronto that is not great. Credit to Toronto. Their goal was a brief moment of brilliance. But what are your thoughts on the five at the back against competition, which is theoretically vastly inferior? It clearly isn't leading to many great opportunities, and I'm worried we'll find a way to give New England their first non-own goal of the season and maybe even 3 points. This is probably an overreaction to Saturday, but can't say I'm thrilled with how the game played out. But at the end of the day, 3 points is 3 points, and if we win Sunday, then 7 points from past 3 games will meet what my minimum expectations were. So again, probably can't really complain. Also, it's how we got to MLS Cup. Thoughts, Andre?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think the question is, was this the worst 2-1 home win in club history? And yeah, I think you should feel good, Andre, about the way New York scored their second goal, because it showed an extra dimension that the Red Bulls have really yet to show this season. I agree with the sentiment that continuing to play 5 in the back perhaps is prohibiting New York from creating more frequent scoring opportunities. I would say it's a challenge of creativity in the final third, because you definitely saw both Dylan and Raheem Edwards in the attacking third. And so I think it's just a question of finding Forsberg when he makes his runs, having a little more courage at the 6 to go forward. And we saw that on Yengor's goal last week against Orlando, where Stroud got all the way to the end line and did the overlap and made the goal happen. And so I think, as we said again, without a game-changing player like Morgan, you're just kind of doing the best you can right now. And listen, I wish this team was as deep at center back, as deep as forward as we are at center back. We've completely rebuilt our whole forward line over this offseason. And so we're not there yet. It's a work in progress. Better to beat poor teams now and use the exercise to get better when the opponents get tougher, and they will. Dan?
Yeah, I'll just say this. I think coming into the season, I thought goal scoring, players would be in position to succeed. My only problem with the attack was creativity.
Yes.
Who else on this team other than Emil Forsberg is a creator? Nobody really. Chupo's going to score the goals. He's going to have hold-up play. Lewis Morgan's a goal scorer. He's not really a creator per se. And then you have your 2 outside wingbacks, maybe a Cam Harper, but he's been a hit and miss whenever he is on the field, but he's more of a finisher as well from the wing. So I've always said that they needed more, creation, more playmaking, and Emil Forsberg brings that. But we saw what happened last year when he's not on the field.
Right.
Nobody was creating chances, so no goals were being scored.
Yep.
So I think that's what they're looking for in the summer window. I think they will bring in another guy that can kind of, take the burden off of Emil Forsberg. Maybe they even bring that in before the window closes this window. I don't think so. I think they'll probably get that person in the summer when more players are available with other windows opening up. But I think, that's what this team needs is a playmaking 10 or a winger, like a pure winger 10 that can bring some more pace to the game as well. I just think that's the only thing that really lacks on the team right now is playmaking. And if Forsberg goes down again, like we saw last year, I think this team could be in real trouble, especially after they were able to bank points last year. Like they were able to ride a lot of that early momentum.
Yep.
If it happens early in this season, like if Forsberg goes down, he said he feels great, but what if he's playing 90 minutes every game? I mean, what happens if he pulls a hamstring or anything like that? So that's my only worry. But I think with the attack, the more they play with each other, the more chemistry they build, the more plays that we see like we did in the second half last Saturday. So I'm not really too worried. It's still early in the season. But, yeah, I think they'll be fine going forward. And, hopefully they can get out of New England with a win with 3 points because that would be massive for them.
Yeah, and I think it would, again, although they're playing the poor teams, these are the teams that you have to just beat. You just beat because you're better than them.
Yep.
And not let the field condition and not let the, playing on the road, not let any of that be an issue. Also, consider the Revs have been off for 2 weeks. So they're perhaps a little bit out of
Take it to them.
Yeah, thank you, Andre. Here's longtime friend of the show since day one, Corey Vezina, saying, kudos to the guys grinding one out and getting the job done with a bit of a makeshift lineup last weekend. I feel like we made our own luck in that game, and I'm glad they were able to cash in some chips in a week when they really needed all 3 points. I felt the PK on Edwards was a bit soft, but hey, VAR gods giveth and taketh away.
Exactly.
After watching Manuel get mugged in LA with no call in the Cup final in December, we don't need to apologize for anyone for some luck finding us now and again. Kudos to Emil and the squad for saving us from a week of old man yells at clouds vibes. It really does seem that that little sweeter when the laundry you're rooting for beats the other guy's laundry. My only concern is that we have to be more clinical in front of goal during the run of play. We have 6 goals in 5 matches, but 2 of them are penalties. We need to do better finishing those half chances and getting the ball to Choupo-Moting in front of the net with some space. It seems like he's always 1v2 up there trying to score a goal in a phone booth. Thanks, Mark and Dan, for all you do. Best of luck to the team in New England. That's Corey Vezina. Yeah, I can't take anything away from that. I mean, I agree. We've on the shot that Sofo converted, and almost that's it. We haven't seen Choupo with a yard and a half of space. He gets closed down so quickly. Part of the reason why is because I think his quickness has left him, and that's okay. But he needs to be able to create a little bit more room for himself so he can turn and fire. We've seen it once this season. It's worked out well. We need to see it more. What do you think?
I mean, but that's the setup of the team. That's what's with him only being the one striker and the other 2 are kind of wingers or kind of just sitting right behind him.
Yeah.
He's the real focus on the team. And it's also, he comes back and gets the ball a lot. He's always in midfield, trying to link up play, holding the ball up. So we haven't really seen him with, a look inside the box yet, other than that one where he bounced it off the post and Sokol finishes. So I think it's just the formation setup. I think that's just how Choupo wants to play at this current moment. Maybe that changes going forward when he gets more comfortable in the system and, gets into a run of form where he's full go. But yeah, I think that's probably the next step that they have to take is getting Choupo maybe making a run in behind the defense or, linking up a 1-2 where he's finally getting past the center back, and he's not closed down by both the center backs. So yeah, I think we'll see that going forward, hopefully more.
I think the challenge is I don't know if he has the legs to get in behind. I'll be honest with you. We've been watching for 5 matches now, and you can make the argument he's playing strong defensive lines. It hasn't all been strong defensive lines, and I don't know if he has the speed to take on and beat almost anyone. And so if he is literally the Brian Ching non-scoring forward that holds the ball up and dishes, as we saw with New York's second goal on Saturday night, then so be it. Again, as I mentioned to Lloyd, they still haven't found a 15 to 20 goal scorer at forward since Bradley left. So, all right, you got the next one, my friend.
Yes, from John. How you say his last name?
I think Hoffler is probably
Hoffler?
right.
Okay, I didn't want to mess it up. So
Yeah.
John Hoffler, thank you for the email. Hi, Mark and Dan. I thought it was a great moment when a couple of seconds of Bulls on Parade was played while Forsberg was walking up to take his penalty last Saturday. Yeah. They tried to jinx him, but he got it through. What did you think of this? Do you think it was already cleared with Schwartz and Forsberg? It was a lot of fun, but could have been a bit embarrassing had the pen not been scored. Yeah, and to be fair, I forgot, and some of the media forgot to bring this up post game. I wish I remembered. I was it just blew past my brain. But
we'll get with Sandro tomorrow, and we'll have an opportunity to ask him.
What a crazy moment that could have been. Like, again, that's played as he's putting the ball down on the penalty spot. Like, you're asking for a jinx. That could have just been a meme going around if he misses. But on Emil Forsberg, he sends Sean Johnson the wrong way and calmly puts it in the right corner, calm, coolly, and collected, like the professional he is. So, a non-story, but it could have been a real story at the end of the day.
I guarantee you, John, that was not cleared with anyone. No. That was an accident.
Someone's finger spazzed on the button.
Someone's finger spazzed on the button, and I thought it was interesting because it wasn't just clearly the music and the light show are timed together. It was a routine played because the lights started going off and the music played, and everyone where we were like, "Oh, why would you do that?" That was an incredibly well taken penalty by Forsberg. Not only did he open his hips up, he very subtly kicked it with his heel and rolled it into the back corner. Sean Johnson is a very good penalty stopper, as evidenced by his 2 shootout wins with NYC when they won their cup in 2021. I mean, he is high quality penalty kick stopper, and again, as you said, sent Johnson the wrong way. Thank you, John, for your note. That was absolutely not okay. Mike Briseño with the last email of the day. Good afternoon. I want to share a couple of thoughts after attending the match Saturday night. Obviously, it was a wonderful night and the Red Bulls won. Did they look amazing? Not really, but I wouldn't say they look bad either. I like where we are, and I believe this group will get better as the season progresses. It's still very early in the season. A few thoughts. I think Forsberg is an absolute difference maker, and he's playing very well. I think that Chupo is playing well, and his hold-up play at the top is what we need. So I'm pleasantly surprised by the amount of minutes he's playing. I believe the goals will come. I have to say, I am not impressed lately with Ricky Carmona. This is very disappointing because I remember writing to you last season saying how good he looked and how I think he has so much potential to unlock. I really believed he was going to be a difference maker as he developed. I don't know what happened to him, but Saturday he looked so unconfident on the ball, and it seems that he's just so scared to make a mistake every time he touches the ball. Is this just me? What do you think? Thanks again, Mike. Thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I'll touch on the wiki point because, for the longest time, I've been a wiki guy. When I saw him at Red Bull,
wiki fan from way back,
because when he first comes in and you see him with Red Bull 2, you're like, man, this kid's got something. And even like the past couple of years when he plays at Red Bull 2, he's the best player on the field. It's not even a question. He shows his quality. It's just when he goes under the lights at Sports Illustrated Stadium or Red Bull Arena, it just there's a disconnect there, and for whatever reason, that's not translating. And that's why I've kind of hopped off that bus, the past year and a half. It's just not working for him. Whatever it is, it's a mental block because he's got that talent. He's got that ability to be a impactful player. It's just not clicking mentally. And you can see it on the pitch. Like when he's playing at Red Bull 2, he's hitting these shots. He's making these passes. He's making it look easy. Once he gets up to Red Bull, the first team, his head is down. He's over dribbling. He's doing his good pressing, and his defending ability has improved. I've seen that. But his offensive game is kind of shut down. And I don't know if that's a Sandro thing. I don't know if that's a system thing. I don't think it is. I just think it's him not, for whatever reason, it's just not clicking mentally for him.
Yeah.
And it's sad to see because I thought he would have that potential. But him getting that start, I was really shocked. I was very surprised that he got that start. And he definitely didn't take his opportunity.
Yeah, here are his passing stats for Saturday night. This is from Football Reference. 23 for 30 on passing. That's 77%. Half of those, 15 for 17 on short passes, 5 for 7 on medium, 1 for 2 for long passes. He had one key pass, right? So a key pass is a pass that generates a scoring opportunity. And that is not necessarily good enough. Although I have to say, when you have Emil Forsberg on the field and the team is kind of deferring to him, as we've talked about on the show, you're going to get fewer. Forsberg had 4 key passes on the match. He only passed twice into the final third, and he had only one progressive pass, and that's a pass that moves the ball toward the opponent's goal line of at least 10 yards. And so a lot of his passing was backwards, and a lot of his passing was short, and a lot of his passing didn't do the types of things that I think Red Bull fans need him to do. The only thing I'll say is, I guess the question is, what is the real expectation on Wiki? As you said, when he's with the 2 team, he's great. He's a tweener, right? Like he's literally, he is a tweener. He is still only 22 years old, and he has been with the club for 5 years, in the program for 5 years. And so I think we expect more. I think the question is truly, what is he being asked to do? Because he's not on the field to be Forsberg Jr. I think he's on the field to just kind of feed and shuttle the ball along, and that's what he did.
But that's the problem, though, because if Forsberg does go down, who's his replacement? It's Wiki Carmona.
Yeah.
So, if obviously he's not going to be Emil Forsberg when Emil Forsberg's on the pitch, but
right.
You got to show a bit of something. And I don't even see him making runs. I don't see him trying to get in behind the defense.
Yeah,
it's just I don't see much offensively. Obviously, he's improved defensively. His pressing game has been good. We've even seen him play center midfield. I never thought I would see Wiki Carmona play in the midfield as a dual pivot. So he's improved there. But if you're not if you're not improving offensively with this team, I don't see a role for him. So that's why I was kind of shocked that he got that start. And I definitely don't expect him to start on Saturday. So we'll see. He's just got to improve his game offensively. He's got to get that confidence within him to, when he gets on that ball, that I'm going to be direct. I'm going to dribble at the defender. And I'm going to make, I'm going to cause problems. That's all. I'm not saying he's got to score, create assists, just be impactful, cause problems. And he's not doing that.
Don't just cycle the ball to the corner. I agree.
Exactly.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's a good point. Thank you, Mike, for your note. We've come to an end of another fantastic Seeing Red. Dan, Rebain, where can fans find you?
First, I'd like to say shout out to LLOYD SAM and Bradley Wright Phillips. Great new podcast that they started. I've loved it. I've loved the stories that they've told. So if you haven't, go listen to them because 2 great Red Bulls, and they've started something really good. They're really funny. So shout out to both of them, first of all.
Yes.
You can go check me out. Area Sports Network. All my Red stuff is there. And check me out on Instagram or X. Just look up my name. So that's
Awesome.
about it from me.
All right. Thank you, Dan, for joining. Thanks to Zach Feldman for stats. Thank you, LLOYD SAM. LLOYD SAM is an absolute pleasure to talk to every single time. We have been talking to LLOYD SAM on Seeing Red since he came to New York in 2012. And watching him really find his second career as a really sharp analyst has been an absolute joy. And as you said, he has the opportunity to join the Red Bulls MLS Season Pass Mafia as the Shield era teams are taking over the airwaves or the stream waves. I don't know. Nevertheless, thank you so much for listening to episode 606 of Seeing Red. You know we'll be back next week. Have a good one, everyone. Let's go Red Bulls. Good night.